Justin? To give me a thumbs
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Get a little closer.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, I got to eat it. All right. So, hey, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting, our second in-person meeting of the year so far. It's second in a row, too, so that's nice. We've got two good presentations tonight. Next slide. Am I not seeing the slides? Maybe. Justin's remote because he's trying not to get us infected with his sinus infection, so we appreciate that. Quick agenda for the night, just a quick update, some VMUG updates. We have a demo from EG Innovations. Then we also have a Tanzu K8's presentation. And then we'll have a giveaway. And you're going faster than I am, but that's all right. Or is it auto-advancing? Sorry about that. All right, that's the agenda. We'll do the closing after that. Just a quick couple announcements. VMworld 2021 is coming up. Registration's not open, but there are the dates if you want to keep them available. Also have
That's my fault. Registration's open. Sorry. I got it on the other PowerPoint, but I didn't get on this one.
Okay, so blame him. I'm just reading what's on the slides. But yeah, it is coming up. A couple of virtual events also coming up. Australian VMUG Virtual User Com. Actually, I think would be kind of fun to watch. So be good to reach out there. But a couple on the slides for you guys to look at. And then just VMware Champions. Just an update. If you haven't played with that, it's a great way to get involved, find out what's going on, and just be a chance to see what other technologies are out there from VMware and get some hands-on stuff with that. So next, and this is the gift card QR code if you want to register for the giveaway. The QR code is there, so grab your phones out or get a hold of it and make sure to do that. $100 is it Amazon gift? $100 Amazon gift card?
Correct.
And they will probably talk about it here in a little bit too as we get going. So I'll leave that up while I introduce both Guy and I'm bad with, is it Nanda? Nanda from EG Innovations. I'll let them take it from there.
Hey, David. Yep, you got it right.
Thank you very much. All right, yeah, please register for the $100 Amazon gift card. And the winner, what I would need is your name and what email address you'd want me to send that to. And I'll get that off to you by Friday. Okay, so we need presenter rights, or Nanda needs presenter rights.
Guy, I'm good. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Let me know if you guys can see the presentation. It should be on the screen now.
Yes.
Okay.
I can see there. All right. Well, again, appreciate everybody allowing us to sponsor this event here, second in person, which I think is pretty exciting. Now, hopefully more of these user groups follow suit. Me personally getting tired of all these Zoom meetings. But anyways, my name is Guy Gross. I'm the account rep for the Midwest for EG. And joining me is Nanda. Nanda heads up our solution engineering team. He's been with EG for 15 plus years, so great resource. I'm going to go through a few slides, shouldn't take more than 5 minutes as just a setup, and then Nanda's going to get into a technical presentation with a small group. If it's easy enough, if you want to throw out a question while we're going, feel free to do so. We always like it, more interactive, the better, or we can just hold it for questions and answers at the end. All right. Next slide, Nanda. All right. I'm not going to read this slide verbatim to you. I'm sure you're all capable of doing that. The only thing I always like to point out this fact is that, really what our strength is the capability to give you a complete visibility across every layer and every tier of dynamic and complex cloud, virtual, and physical IT environments. And the key, we do it all with a single solution, all encompassing. It's not made up of a bunch of different bits and parts. So as your IT environments change, evolve, we have the capability to do that with you. All right, next slide. All right, we've been a partner with VMware since 2007. So we kind of grew up as they grew up with them. We're certified. We attend every year when they do have a conference. We do a lot of these VMUG meetings as well. But we expand, companies, we're finding more and more of our customers are using, say, Horizon VDI, but then they're bringing in some other, maybe AWS for certain users. So we give you the capability to not only do VDI with Horizon View, but other technologies as well. We support Nutanix, Hyper-V, Zen Server. So, anything that has an impact to the end user, EG is there to help you improve that experience. And I think the slide needs to be up because we won a more recent award from VMworld. So that needs to be updated a little bit. All right, next slide. All right, what makes us different? I think we've all experienced, we've had solutions, bought solutions for different things, monitoring or database management, whatever it might be. And what you originally buy starts to become something that takes on a life of its own. Company acquires somebody else and plugs it on top of it and plugs it. So that becomes this completely different being and makes it very difficult to support and everything else. EG has all been developed internally over the last 20 years. With a lot of it's the same development team. We got developers that have been here from the beginning, which is very unusual for this industry. The other thing is I've worked for other software companies, been in this business for 30 years, and so many times you acquire a company, well, you lose the most important resource, the people that develop that application when the acquisition happens for whatever reason. And it's very difficult to maintain and support that. That is really, I can't emphasize how much that makes my life easier knowing that it's all internally grown. And it definitely helps us from supporting our customer base. The expertise, again, when you got developers, hundreds of years, if you add them all up, they've been working on this technology. All right, next slide. I think I kind of beat this already. When you have multiple technologies, you have overlapping functionality, you start to figure out which one should I use now, which one don't I use. False positives. Our goal is always to get you to a point where if we give you an alert, you need to take action on it. It's not something that, we're just going to give you a bunch of alerts, but that takes time. Once you're installed, we start to understand your systems, and now they'll show you this in the demo. Then we can start customizing things to be your need. What do you want to be alerted on right away? What do you want on a report every morning when you walk in? Who should be notified? Everything gets correlated, so it's a single visual that you can look at and see everything going on. You can see if it's storage, VMware, if it's Citrix or the database, so who needs to take action and work on the problem versus just trying to figure that out. The total cost of ownership, our customers get value very quickly. And, let's see, we have customers that have been with us almost 18 years now. And, I've been here, like I said, 5 years, and I got customers that have been with me, though, 5 years plus. So it's very exciting to be a part of. Next slide, Nanda. All right. What we have is, you can see on the right, those are a lot of technologies that we support today. That's all the same product. So if you license this today for VMware, but you move to another platform, that technology moves along with it. It's a single product, single interface that collects data in very, very, very different ways in order to bring that data, correlate it, and give you reasonable action to take to solve a problem fast. Nanda? Let's see. Again, I'm not going to read verbatim, but a lot of we talk, the analytics are second to none. Correlates all the information to every monitoring tool out there in the market, collects a lot of data. Two things about it is, how does it collect that data? And a second, how does it present it back? Does it make sense? Do you need to have a doctorate in order just to be able to figure out what the data is saying? And there are a lot of technology, and sometimes the technology that requires it. But our goal is always to be able to collect that data, correlate it, make sense of it in the background, and then bring it to you so you can take action The whole idea, giving you the haystack, give you the needle within that haystack, and then tell you what's wrong with that needle very quickly. So if your help desk is the first line of defense, I think you could very easily give them dashboards that they can see, click on, and be able to talk to that user on the other end. Yeah, see exactly what was going on at this point in time. I'll get the right person to work on it. Or let me restart your service because of X, Y, Z. Very quick. That's where the self-healing correlations go in, and then very simple, intuitive user interface. So, and that's something that we continue to work on to make the dashboards and the reporting as user-friendly as possible. And most of it comes from our customer base telling us, what would they like to see? What can we do better? And we take that and we continue to improve the product. For example, there's in the bottom right-hand corner, our one of our strengths of the product is the capability to have everything in a single screen, as you see, and then you just look for the red, click on the red, and it'll drill down deeper into see what it is. Very popular among help desk, service desk individuals because they get that single tier. They can just figure out, all right, the SQL Server, I need to call the DBA. All within that topology view that you see there. All right, next slide. All right, this is my closing slide, and the only reason I included it, EG and Microsoft, is we're finding so many of our current customers are looking to us and asking us, what can we help them with Office 365? That seems to be a very, very hot topic. When they're rolling out, consuming a lot of IT time resolving problems. So not only do we support in the VMware, but Office 365, all the technology that encompasses, we can help you there as well. So just leave you with the message that you're not bringing EG in just to monitor a single solution. We're much more than that. And then I'm going to hand it over to Nanda if there's no questions to get into the demo. I think I kept pretty close to my word, about 5 minutes.
Yes, you did, Guy. Thank you so much. That's a great overview. So, hey, everyone, this is Nanda Kumar. I'm with EG, and I'm in Livermore, Bay Area, San Francisco, close to. So I'm going to, so this is what I was thinking about, since it's a VMware user group, right? I was thinking about bringing in the server virtualization demonstration, showing you guys how we can proactively help you with, what is going on in the virtualization space. Also, in your infrastructure, how the virtualization is performing, that's number one. And I'm also going to touch base a little bit on the VMware Horizon View desktops. So you understand that it's not the server virtualization, even if it's a desktop virtualization, EG can go deep into it and provide you the information. Moreover, if you notice here, let me just bring in one more screen. Before that, can you guys see my screen? I'm actually logging into one of our monitoring portal. Can you guys see that?
No, for sure screen.
No, we're not seeing. You're not.
Oh, you're not seeing anything? Okay, let me just go ahead and share my screen. Oh, you know what? I was under the impression. Oh, okay. Let me do this. Oh, there it is. I got it. Show all windows, please. Share. Why am I seeing it says passed? Is there a login screen? Can you guys see now, or it's still not visible to you?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let me do this guy.
I could have done more slides, Nanda.
Yeah.
This is probably
Oh,
more
there
of
it is.
a problem
There it
with
is.
Zoom corporate because they don't let you share your whole desktop. You have to share the
Oh,
application.
yes. You know what, Justin? You are amazing. Trust me. Yeah, that's what it is happening. These guys are not letting me do. Come on. All right. Let me just bring in my screen then. We'll go through the screen one by one. Okay. All right. I believe
There we
now
go.
you guys can see this.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Guy, we learned it. That's a limitation with the Zoom. Can't share the whole desktop. That's okay. All right. So, what I was, about to show you guys is, it's not the focus is just the virtualization on the server side. Our focus is both virtualization, server side, desktop, and even cloud services. We have the ability to monitor cloud. So for an instance, if you guys are getting some packages from Horizon View on the Microsoft Azure side, we can still go ahead and monitor it and all that. Okay. Anyway, so this is our performance dashboard. Okay, the screen, what you see first is the enterprise alarms console. Okay, and in this screen, you will see different alerts and using a very simple color coding. More the red, critical the problems are, orange, less critical, and then the yellow ones are the proactive ones. I'm just moving around the current alarms window on the screen to make sure you guys can all see that. Can you guys see it, the current alarms window? Or it's not showing up on the screen? Yes. Okay. All right. That's interesting. Okay. So I guess it's not letting me to share more than one screen. So the current alarms window is another pop-up. I will go through it with you guys right after this window. So the big thing here is on the virtualization monitoring, what we are doing is we're not just monitoring all those different applications running on the virtualization as a silo-based approach, right? So essentially the way we monitor is we provide the service view. So in the service view, when you have applications virtualized and running on the VMware ESX host, you can see when users are connecting and accessing those applications, how the response is. Are there any errors coming up when I go ahead and take a look at a web application running on the virtual server in the hypervisor? So if things are slow, this is the big picture we are talking about. Essentially giving you the ability to see how these applications are running on the virtualization and the where the problems are. So let me just take a second here. And I want to make sure you guys are seeing the topology view, the dependency map.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So the dependency map is automatically discovered and mapped. So what it does is, in essence, it actually tells you where you need to look into to start troubleshooting the problems, right? So for an instance, if a problem is with your storage and, application is having an effect. So what EG does is it will pinpoint that storage is having a critical problem and application is having an effect. So storage will have a red color alert and application will have a either yellow or orange, depending on the severity of the problem. It's not manually done. It's all automatically done. There is a patented correlation technology built in. So from an end-to-end perspective, what EG does is it actually provides you that correlation to quickly understand where you need to focus. So in this case, we have a problem with the database. It's having a major issue. Even though the Java application running in one of the web servers there, having some proactive issue, that's only an effect, right? So whatever is having an orange color, that's more serious, and red is even more critical. So having this database with a major issue, clicking on it further, will show us that, hey, this database server is a part of the virtualization technology. So the VMware ESX host in the monitoring is having a critical problem, and that's impacting the applications. So bottom line is how long it is going to take me to get into this level of details very quick, right? So what EG does is it correlates all this information for you. And from an troubleshooting perspective, it pinpoints where you got to look into the problem. So going further into the virtualization, it will provide you a very easy layer model understanding. So this layer view tells you that, hey, hardware level things are working fine. We don't have to worry about it. It's all good, great. So as long as things are green in color, not to, spend too much time on that. But at the same time, if you notice it, when a problem is happening either in storage or memory or CPU, and it's impacting your applications, automatically the system will have different color coding. In this case, storage is really having a major issue because you can see very well there the read latency and write latency on the storage is high. And this is all coming from the virtualization monitoring. We're not even going into the storage and monitoring the storage like, whether it's Isilon or it's NetApp or whatever it's running there on the storage side. We don't even monitor the storage deep dive, but by monitoring the virtualization, we can clearly see where is the problem at this point of time, and who needs to get involved to troubleshoot the problem, right? So if you don't have this level of visibility right now, it will be a virtualization problem. So the VMware admins, are going to jump into it right away and start troubleshooting it, not knowing where this root cause is. But with EG's help, you can see that, hey, storage is where the problem is happening. We can see that read latency and write latency are high. And that's impacting the virtual servers running on top of it. You can also see the list of virtual servers and the state of the virtual servers running on top of it. If your virtual server is really in a good state, it's green in color, not to worry about it too much. But if it's not working, if things are really falling apart and something is going on inside the virtual servers, you see it in a different color coding, red, orange, and yellow. So in this case, the Oracle running virtual server is having high disk busy percentage there. It will also give you the details of what is running inside the Oracle virtual server, taking up the resource and all that good stuff. So when you get an alert, you're not actually just seeing an alert stating that there's an high disk busy percentage, but also you can see which processes, which applications are running inside the virtual server, taking up that resource. Now, all this, what you notice so far, it's all real time. And we have historical data stored in the database for your easy access, and we don't have any restriction on the data retentions. You can have 1 year, 2 years, or even 3 years worth of data there. So whenever you want to get some details on, let's say, hey, I would like to go and take a look at virtualization reports, or I would like to take a look at VDI users report, you can get all that information through the system. I'm going to bring in quickly another demo with VDI, and I will show you guys what we are talking about the VDI. Any questions so far? Okay, I will see if I can share the screen.
We can
you
see
guys
it.
have to. Okay, so Guy, can you see the alarms window or is just the back end screen?
Alarms window.
All right, good, very good. I'm so happy. More than one screen is visible now. Okay, so if you notice all these different alerts, right? It's the same approach. Nothing has changed except that I've logged in as a VMware desktop administrator, so I can see from a VDI perspective what's happening in the infrastructure. Okay, so I'm going to close this one. Guy, can you see the big picture now? The home dashboard with all that different components?
Yes.
All right, cool. Okay, we're going to talk about the VDI monitoring a little bit now. Okay, and I'm also trying to go into the reporter and dashboards with this demo. Let me know if you guys can see all those screens. So let me start off with the Horizon View monitoring. So VMware View desktops, right? Again, it's not silo-based. It's basically having different supporting infrastructure components tied together, delivering the service. So when we look at the VDI, we're not just seeing the virtual desktop. We are seeing that as a service delivered to the end user. So think of it this way. I have all these desktops running on the View infrastructure on the VMware side. When users are connecting to the desktop and accessing desktop, things are slow. Again, like I said, it really is going to impact your user experience, right? If user is having a slowness and accessing desktop or applications inside the desktop, if they are noticing that slowness, it's going to have a very poor user experience. They are going to complain. So what EG does is it clearly helps you to see that how this whole data flow is happening. Whether it's a VDI or server virtualization, we can provide you the ability to see, hey, the VDI desktops are delivered through all these different tiers. And one of the hosts is having a critical problem, and that's where the real challenge is. Now, I made it simple. I don't want to go through each and every one of it. But if you notice it, the service view is good for administrator. But think of help desk team. whether it's a server virtualization or it's a desktop virtualization, we need a simple window to, understand what's going on in the infrastructure, right? So with the user experience, there comes a user experience dashboard. It shows you all those different users who are connecting to the desktops and the performance of the desktop. Now, if it's a problem with their network latency, or if it's a problem with the VMware blast or a PC over IP, we can differentiate that. We can show you where that slowness is coming from. Um, very often now we know that most of the users are connecting from home network. So if the Wi-Fi is not, reliable, or it's having a very low bandwidth, it's all going to impact the access to your virtual desktops. So with the EG, we can pinpoint and tell you what is going on inside each and every user session. And we can also provide you the information where they are connecting from, what is the round trip time for their connection, and how about the memory usage and CPU usage on the user session, what are the different applications they are accessing. So in a nutshell, you can see all this in the user experience dashboard, a one page, which gives you the ability to see the complete resource usage of each and every user. Remember, I was telling you the same view is also available for your system. So where you can also see how the systems are performing. It can be at the data center level. It can be at the system level. So it is completely up to you guys how you want to see the information. Now we were looking at the service, right? So in the service, I was explaining if it's a slow, what EG does is it can pinpoint and show you where the problems are. So clicking on that, the critical problem with one of the VDI hosts, it shows how your virtual desktops are running. Not just from a desktop perspective, but also from a user perspective, which user is connecting to which desktop and how the experience is on the desktop side. So most of the users are having great experience. You can see them in a good state, right? A couple of users are problematic users in this scenario, where Alan and James having a critical problem, Keith having a minor issue. So clicking on Keith further will help you to see that the issue is tied to the user logon. So it looks like for Keith, the logon is taking a very long time and something is not right. So as soon as the data point shows up on the screen, you will be able to see clearly what is going on, why the logon duration is about 48 seconds. There's no mystery with EG. I'm not sure if you are seeing the pop-up window, but it is going to provide you the details like group policy drive maps are taking up time, close to 40 seconds. So that is the whole reason why this user logon is slowing down. But in addition to that, if you notice the PC over IP session, that looks great. It's about 8 milliseconds. The round trip time is, that's amazing. It's a quick response, a turnaround time. So you can see a breakdown of all the user experience metrics, and you can see a breakdown of things like when they logged in, how long they've been active in the session, and all that information. If you guys have app volume, we can also monitor the app volume and we can show you the app volume details. If it's a Windows 10, we can also show you guys the details about, the user input delay and things like that. So it goes on, right? So point is this, any desktop you're running, we can monitor on the VMware side and we can help you to understand how the performance is. Now, all these metrics, data points we've been going through, we have the ability to, create user experience and desktops view out of the box in the system. In addition to that, you can also have your own custom dashboard views and, whatnot in the dashboard side. And once you have the dashboards ready, the custom dashboards I'm talking about, you can also publish it and get a good view of it. The last thing I want to quickly touch base on the reporter. So all the data points which we reviewed it earlier, it's all part of the reports. So you will be able to see reports like, how the performance of the virtual desktops are, how the performance of the applications are. So you will be able to get all that details in the reporter module. Okay. With that said, I will leave it for Q&A. Do you guys have any questions?
Maybe everyone's on mute.
I say, Bobby, you've been bothering me in chat this whole time. I know you have questions.
I may have a few. So from a Windows monitoring, is that done with an agent or is that through like WMI or agentless?
It is done with an agent, but we call it as a EG VM agent. It's a lightweight agent. Compared to a server virtualization for applications monitoring, we use EG agent. And both EG VM agent and EG agent I'm talking about has got a very light footprint, 0.1 to 1% CPU, about 128 megabytes of memory, less than 0.2 kilobytes of network bandwidth. So it is basically a very lightweight footprint on the Windows server. And we use different methodology in terms of collecting metrics. WMI is one good approach, and we also use commands, queries, APIs. As far as Windows is concerned, WMIs are key, and then the scripts to get some of the additional information on the Windows side. VMware, it's API, vSphere APIs.
All right. From a monitoring backend, do you guys have like an HA solution for multi-data center redundancy?
Absolutely. Such EG can scale both horizontally and vertically very easy. And for HA, we have a redundancy feature built in. So you can have a primary manager, secondary manager, and goes on for each data centers. And we have a super manager as a one global entity, so you can view all these different managers' performance on that super manager.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions, team? Okay, I'll take that as a no, and I'll stop sharing my screen now. Guy, do you want to add anything?
I just want to thank you guys again for allowing us to sponsor, and always look in any way to help you guys with again. So yeah, just if you need anything more, just look at eginnovations.com and you can reach out, get a hold of me at guy.gross at EG Innovations, and we can go from there.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you so much for everyone, listening to this demonstration. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Have a good show.
Hopefully next time we'll be on site.
Yep.
Agreed.
And Guy for the presentation. We're going to take a quick break while we get Scott set up here really quick. We threw the QR code back up there for the giveaways to give you guys a chance to get that going, and take about a 5-10 minute break, and then we'll be back at it. All right.
Excellent. All right. Everybody can hear me okay online and everything coming through? We always have to check on all the technology, right? Well, first of all, it's good to see people like face to face. This is fantastic. So I'm Scott DeShong. I'm a staff solution engineer with VMware. I work in our SLED group, so state and local government and education. I'm part of the core team, so I don't cover one product. I cover everything. And I work with the state of Indiana, state of Kentucky, and some of the larger universities within those two states. I've been with VMware for about 4 years. I was a solution architect prior to that, and I've been in enterprise and global accounts and flown everywhere. So I've been able to have quite a bit of wide experience and see a lot of what goes on out there. And I'm actually really, really happy that for the last year I've been back here in my home state, Indiana, and working in the Midwest. It's where I really like to be and to help everybody here. So I really, really appreciate you guys having me out here to talk today. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you were looking for that super deep dive, I wanna know exactly every single little thing that Tanzu does, this is not that discussion. Now, it's not a sales discussion either. Okay, it's going to be a technical discussion, but we're gonna kind of go back to some of the basics here and make sure that we have a clear idea of what the objective is with Tanzu. What does this mean to containers? What does this mean to Kubernetes? Why is Kubernetes important? What the heck does it do versus containers themselves? And why do developers love it? And why as operations guys should I be concerned about it? Because isn't that a developer thing? And there's just a whole lot of mystery behind this. There is a website, I think it's like Kubernetes.academy, something like that. I'll make sure that that proper link gets sent out to you guys. A lot of the material that I'm pulling, that website is sponsored by VMware. I'm pulling from there. There's a lot of 101 stuff, really good things that they just walk through with videos to kind of help those of us that have been on the infrastructure side to understand the reality of why containers matter. So probably the first question I have is a few to get level set, and anybody that's remote, feel free to just jump in and answer any questions. But is anybody running any kind of containers in production today? Awesome. That's okay. That's what I wanted to hear, right? Production is the big key here, right? Because most developers have already been running containers for quite some time in one fashion or another, even if it's just on their own machine to be able to do some local development. But understanding kind of where it's spread out and what it's meant to you guys is really helpful. Anybody even running any kind of cluster management like Kubernetes or Docker or anything like that within their environment, even from a dev or test perspective, I'm assuming? Yep. A couple different people. Okay. Anybody actually running any of the Tanzu stuff yet? Nope. Okay, fantastic. So can somebody just tell me how you would define a container? What is it?
CH root jail.
Sorry?
CH root jail.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody else? Well, we kind of go through and do a simple description here. I'm not going to read it to you, but the idea is that you don't have to run everything under the sun that's typically included with a virtual machine. You find out what does it take as a minimum to run an application. What do we mean by an application? It could be a single service, it could be a multi-service application. It doesn't really matter. We know that somebody wants to run something to do something. Typically, for the last 40 years of computing, you've required an operating system to be able to do that. Well, that's not technically true. What you've needed is the elements that are pulled from the operating system to be able to do that. We've just never thought to break it apart that far. We went all the way through this virtualization and all that stuff, and it's kind of a natural progression, but really what you need to think about is, if I was to click on the start button and click on an application, what does it take for that thing to run? We capture all of that. Anybody used like any of the VMware VDI products in the past? Anybody use ThinApp? When I first heard about containers, I thought about ThinApp, right? That was like the first thing that came to my mind was, hey, wait, we capture applications. Isn't this like the same thing? Kind of, but not really, right? So the way that we have to deal with these is we have to have a container host. Now the container host can just be a server. It could be a physical server, it could be a virtual machine, whatever it is. We are going to share operating system elements, and then we're going to run those containers that have everything within them to be able to run. Anybody think of any kind of shortcomings that you could have with that? How do we connect to that from the network? What's required? We probably need like a MAC address, right? An IP address. We probably need some sort of authentication. We probably need a lot of different things that are just always there in the operating system that honestly developers don't think about them 100% of the time, right? So let's take a look at a comparison here. I'm going to do a lot of comparisons between virtual machines and containers. I'm assuming everybody in here pretty much knows virtual machines, right? We're all vSphere engineers of one type or another. We've all had a big background in that to some extent. Anybody not understand virtual machines? Perfect. Okay. So if we look at this and we take a look at what happens on virtual machines versus what happens on containers, the concept is that containers isolate the processes, right? Exactly what you said back there in the corner. That's the idea. Isolate the processes versus virtual machines, which has everything all bunched up into one. Now I want you to look at this bottom part here, where we look at container host, hypervisor hardware, versus basically the full operating system hypervisor hardware. Because we're going to spend a little bit of time breaking that down today and understanding what are the elements where containers operate, why this management's necessary, and why Kubernetes matters. This one to me I think is fantastic because this comparison shows what the purpose is. Now if you look down here at the very bottom, it says optimize for stability, optimize for agility. How many of you feel super comfortable that your application folks will manage every part of the operating system in a container environment? I heard something over here. Did you care to comment? No? I'm assuming there's no developers on the phone either. Like we're all just infrastructure guys here, so we can bash them. It's okay, right? Oh, we have a developer in the back? Nope. Okay. Oh, fair enough. Okay. So, everybody heard of the pets versus cattle mentality? Everybody in the room? Is there anybody that's not heard pets versus cattle? It's okay if you haven't. You have not heard this? Oh, you've heard of it? Okay. Good. Everybody's had pets versus cattle. To me, that's why I don't care about the operating system anymore. Because containers, they're all cattle. That's the concept that we were supposed to come out with. The idea that we're supposed to support. And when you go down to Kubernetes and Tanzu, that's supposed to be applicable as well. A little scary when you think about some of the security concepts, when you think about various elements that we've always controlled and said, it'll be a 6-month upgrade process. It's gonna take time. So we look at it, the stability versus agility when it comes to VMs versus containers. Does anybody disagree with that? I see some wheels spinning, but nobody's willing to challenge. Okay.
It looks like you're ready to answer.
I'm getting there. Yeah, we're making progress.
I'm not gonna argue.
And guys, I'm really a big fan of open conversation. It's a small group here. What do we have, a couple people on the phone? So please, by all means, stand up and talk. All right? Let's move on to the next section of this, because I'm putting out a lot of different parts and pieces here, and it's gonna all come together, I promise you. We also see portability as an issue. Anybody consuming public cloud today? One in the back? IaaS or just doing like SaaS type stuff?
AWS and Azure stuff.
Okay. So you're doing virtual machines out there? Excellent. Real easy to take those virtual machines and bring them on-prem or take the ones on-prem and take them off, right? Exactly, yeah. We do have solutions for that. We're not here to talk about that today. In reality, you're gonna have all these conversions that happen because virtual machines aren't common, right? Everybody's trying to do it their own way. To be honest, VMware, yeah, we kind of came up with it and we like our stuff. We're pretty proud of it. We charge money for it. And there's lots of people that make other stuff that they don't charge money for. So if you're building out your cloud product, you're probably gonna use that. Containers, pretty much the same. Pretty much the same everywhere, right? It provides a level of portability that we've never seen before. And because we're not having to incorporate all these drivers and other things that go on within containers, we don't have to worry about all the underlying parts and pieces. That's why developers like it, because they don't have to talk to you guys, or me for that matter. They don't have to think about it, right? They get in there and just make it all work. Isn't that how it functions? It's supposed to be just this pretty and this easy. You can make a container go across every platform. Well, the reality is that's not quite the case. This is what developers see. This over here, right? Just a container. Hey, I can go ahead and do all my coding and I'm happy as a clam and I'll be able to do everything. I've actually run a container on my laptop before. I didn't realize it was just that easy. Like 4 commands and a little thing and bam, you got a web server. It's like no big deal. Get hello world up and running in no time. Every developer sees like that and they just start salivating. They go, wait a sec, I don't have to get a VM provisioned. I don't have to worry about those guys getting security and everything else. But I noticed that none of you in here are running production. Why? Because maybe you don't have all this stuff over here. Maybe that's the challenge, right? When we start looking at it, we've got load balancing, we've got security, we've got to figure out, is there high availability? I think you and I were talking earlier, right, about application developers writing things to scale. The reality is they've got to find a way to engage into a platform where the rules are already set for them, the templates are already there, everything that they need to do all that, and they just code to it. Because they're not interested in all of this. They're interested in whatever their application is, right? Now the VMs, they had to be interested in all that stuff if they were going to get anything done. Does anybody else have applications folks in here, developers or application management people, that you now just hand them a VM with an operating system on it and you don't do anything beyond that as your team? I know one there. Anybody else? Back there? Yes? Anybody? Not sure? Okay, most of my customers, in fact, on my last job at VMware, most of those guys, I got into a room with a group full of infrastructure people. They said, hey, we got somebody coming in from our database team. Great. The infrastructure guys didn't even know who the database team was. They didn't know who this person was. That person came in and said, yes, when a customer wants a database server, they go to this web page and fill out a database request form. And then if it's big enough, we then take that and we fill out a request form for the infrastructure team to build a VM, which meant that it took 12 weeks for the customer to get a database server, right? They just don't think in terms of all the stuff that it takes to take one of these things to production. They think, I got a container. I can do what I want. All of this leads us to ask, okay, how do we do this? Well, the beauty of that is Kubernetes, okay? I know I said container management. Kubernetes, is that what you guys are running in your test environment?
Yes.
Yes, you are running Kubernetes. Okay. Are you running just as the do-it-yourself, or using like a Rancher or something like that, or OpenShift?
That's not OpenShift. We were trying to bring that stuff, and it was not really doing that well. Yeah.
Some sort of do-it-yourself, homegrown
I
something?
basically build the nodes for them and say, here's your nodes, and they take it and build it, so.
Yep.
I really don't know what to do with it.
Nope, that's, you know what, that's the thing, is that's completely common. How are you ensuring that you've got governance and security in place for that?
We're not.
Exactly. That's, by the way, you're not alone. Don't feel bad about that answer, because that's what everybody's answer is. Well, I might build a physical machine and get it into a rack, and then somebody else comes in and they do some sort of install on it. I might provision a virtual machine. I might even go so far as to provision a virtual machine that has Linux on it, right? And then I just hand it off to the developers. Well, guys, they're not doing any of this, right? They're not doing any of that stuff over there. So they're using one IP address, or then they're natting a bunch of stuff through, and so they're doing, you know, port maps for all that stuff. And as soon as you go to multiple physical servers because you want high availability, it falls on its face. I'm seeing it a lot. I'm seeing where customers that are engaging some of the other solutions out there, they have to bring in 20 contractors for 2 years to make one application. Why would you even bother on containers? That doesn't solve any of the problems that you were actually trying to fix, right? Trying to make things that were fast and trying to make them agile, right? All the things that VMs don't give us today. Does anybody do all of that level of automation with VMs, by the way? When we talk about pets versus cattle, everybody said they knew what they were doing or what that meant. Does anybody do that on VMs today? Like that level of orchestration? Right? I wish. Trust me, I've been trying to sell vRealize automation for 5 years. It is what it is, okay? Let's just leave it at that. It is what it is. The reality is that this is going to do everything that it was hopefully going to accomplish for us. And it should make our lives a lot easier to be able to do that. So the concept here is that you will be able to deploy those applications. Kubernetes, and by extension, the VMware platform, right? Well, I'm just gonna say Tanzu for now. I'll explain some of the other parts later, but Tanzu gives you that capability, and it puts it in your hands, right? It makes it where you can see it in vCenter console, and you go, oh, okay, I get it. Now I can deploy a cluster, and a developer can connect to it and dump their containers on it. And I can put rules and security and governance and all the things that I care about and data protection, and I can see all of that in there. How does that actually work? Well, let's take a look at a familiar architecture, okay? We're gonna start with the Kubernetes cluster. Simple, just don't even think about the hardware, don't think about anything. This is just a Kubernetes cluster, okay? We're gonna have some sort of master, and this master controls how things are deployed within Kubernetes. Where are we going to run containers? And what are those containers gonna look like? What is the governance? What is all the parts and pieces and security that goes with it? Then we're gonna have worker nodes. Some place where the container actually runs, right? This is something where we say, okay, there's some sort of disk and there's some sort of storage or processor and memory, and all the things that we need are in this worker node. And then we're gonna put a pod out there, okay? Now, if we start taking this and flipping it over and saying, what's the equivalent? Well, master turns into vCenter, okay? We start seeing ESXi hosts, same thing. And then we see VMs. The reality is the pods are kind of a one-to-one to containers, not always, right? But usually. Don't let that one throw you, okay? Just think like nested VMs. We don't do it very often unless we have a really, 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 really good reason, because they suck and they're really difficult to deal with, right? Does that make sense? Do I need to go through that again at all? I really want to make sure that you guys know these names right here. Master, worker node, pod. Okay? So the master is going to determine what gets deployed everywhere, right? On the worker nodes. All right? And that equivalent is this. Now, seems simple enough. Let's go to the next step. Okay, let's talk about the cluster service. This is the master node, okay? Were you guys aware of the latest release of this is important, because to understand, if you said, wait a sec, master node controls everything and we're running vCenter, isn't vCenter a single point of failure that we never cared about because it only mattered if you were actually doing provisioning operations? Anybody notice that the latest version of vSphere and vCenter included high availability for vCenter by default? Yeah, suddenly when it turns into the master node, now we need to have high availability for vCenter. So now you can understand where that came from. Okay, we do desired state management. Is anybody familiar with that? I'm not gonna go into it. There's a really good, I think it was Scott Lowe that did it on the website I'll give you. I just wanna make sure it's the right one. But he talks about desired state and what that means. Highly recommend it. I think it's a 4.5 minute video. Really, really good. When we configure Kubernetes, we're configuring to a desired state. That is important, okay? Then we've got these worker nodes, okay? They've got the host agent on there. Anybody seen the kubectl command? Right? No? KUBECTL? That's what we use a lot of times to interface, or developers will use it. We don't touch it. I used it like one time and I said, yeah, that's a dev thing. I don't need to do that. Those guys can do that, right? I don't care. I don't want to do that, right? But again, this looks similar to the last one, okay? We're going to deploy an application. So we create a YAML configuration file. And this is going to say, hey, we're going to use a registry, some sort of place where we're storing container images. Now, what is a container? It's the elements of the operating system that are needed with the application, right? That's all it is. We don't have anything else in there. So we could create that and put it in one place, right? In this registry. We connect that registry to this YAML file and we say, we want to have some copies of this thing, right? We want to have multiple instances of this application up and running. We tell the Kubernetes cluster service that, and look at that. On each worker node, it creates pods and it creates the containers. Does that make sense? We didn't go to vCenter and right click and go deploy from template and deploy this number of virtual machines and make copies of all the same template and then go in and customize them. Instead, we use this YAML file, and we're not pulling full virtual machines that are 40 gig a piece or whatever they are nowadays. I don't even know. Okay? Instead, we're pulling from the registry the container, the binaries that are required, and the application. And we're saying, deploy this, and make sure, by the way, that it's got some high availability. So use multiple worker nodes. Why would we do that? Well, in this instance, we're showing how you can do that with a second app. That app was running on this worker node, and that worker node died. Well, shoot. First of all, note that the application did not die because we had deployed it across 3. And if we're using the full set of Kubernetes capability and integrating it with all the other stuff, I'll say Tanzu because Kubernetes doesn't do it by itself. So if we're using Tanzu, we could have network load balancing as part of that YAML file, right? Automatically configures that whole thing and, hey, it's all over here. And then when that dies, it tells it and says, pull it all out and redistribute those workloads to these other worker nodes. Sounds kind of like HA on VMware, right? Except in this case, because it's application centric, we're not talking about VMs or IP addresses or any of that stuff. We're talking about the container and the application. The application doesn't go down. Quick sanity check. Is this all making sense? Okay. And I apologize if this is too elementary for some. I'm sorry. I just have had so many conversations where people just don't understand the equation between VMs and containers, and we're all from VM backgrounds, so it can be very difficult. All right, so Now that we understand the worker node deployments, I'll get into some more details around that. Let's talk about this provisioning process, right? Application team, hey, I need to deploy this app. What's it gonna take? You know, oh, I need a couple servers and I need some software on it, operating system stuff. And if you can install my application for me, that'd be great, but I know that doesn't happen nowadays. Okay, so the infra team gets it, and they go, great, we're gonna build it. That has to go to 4 different teams. I've actually seen it go to as many as 6 or 7 or 8, which is crazy. Okay, great. We're gonna build out the full sets of servers and all the virtual machines and everything that's necessary. And here you go, guys. There's your whole stack for your application. And what always happens when the application team gets it? Anybody? Every time you've ever delivered infrastructure to an application team, what have they told you?
Oh, we forgot to add these requirements.
It's wrong. Exactly. So you have to rework, right? You got to go in and do more, and now you got to distribute to all those teams again, and you get the funky little cat hammering at the keyboard again, right? Oh, wait a sec. Now it doesn't work because nobody can reach it because nobody actually, talked to the security team in the firewall, right? I mean, isn't this crazy? This is what we do every single day. This is what our world has been, and it sucks. It just does, right? We're the guys that are all running around with our, heads cut off, chickens with our heads cut off, and we're just like trying to figure out what we're gonna do next, right? All this mess. And then of course they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna add this Git stuff in it and Jenkins, and that'll automate everything. And so every time they do a code update, guess what happens? It goes back to the rework stage because none of it actually worked. Yeah. And I've seen people that do this and they say, well, yeah, but we got Scrum groups, so we're running Agile.
This is my life.
Yeah, this is, can you tell I've seen this a couple times out there? Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Tanzu, okay? Let's talk about what the goal is here and what this is supposed to look like. Compute, mem, storage, external IP addresses, okay? That's what we care about. Now, for us, we look at it, and I'm a big fan of how VMware's products work together. I wish they worked together better. That's something that VMware can certainly do better, and we are working on it. I more and more equate us less to companies like Dell or IBM and more to companies like SAP, because I think what we're doing is we are building a platform to enable technology for business, right? That's what we do, we enable. That's the whole purpose here. So what does this look like? Intake, infrastructure build, okay? Create a namespace. So I get to the point now where I don't even think this has to happen because we can use automation, VRA, to allow you to deploy a Kubernetes cluster in Tanzu. How big do you want a developer? Okay, it's gonna cost you this much. Does your boss approve? Yes, great, it's deployed, right? I never even see it. I don't need to see it. There's no reason. I just create this gigantic infrastructure resource pool, and then they can use APIs to get into it. And they can deploy whatever they want in there. Now, I still all have all my policy and governance and everything else that's wrapped around it, right? But they're doing all this stuff within these highly distributed applications. And that's where we start seeing all these different Kubernetes clusters coming apart and going out there. Let's be honest, we might actually be able to make that whole VM automation thing happen as part of this once we actually get going with containers, because we'll reduce the complexities that are required in the VM world. So even if we've got mixed workload, we could potentially still do this. Make sense? Okay, I think I missed one slide in there somewhere. Let me go back. I know I went through all of them. There was one more. I think I just didn't get it added in here. So yeah, there is one more that I wanted to talk about related to this here, okay? When we equate those pods and all that sort of stuff, you saw VM namespace in there, right? So we create a cluster. Within that cluster, we create multiple namespaces. Those namespaces equate to pods. The pods are where we run containers. That's the slide I was missing, sorry about that. But does that make sense? We actually take vSphere functions, your typical infrastructure, how much compute, how much memory, how much storage do you need? We wrap it all into that namespace, that cluster, right? And we hand that off to the developer. It's like giving them access to vCenter without actually giving them access to vCenter, and they don't have to understand anything about vCenter. Right? They're going to build their containers in the registry. They're going to hopefully have some sort of CI/CD process to control all that, and then they're going to dump those containers into the namespace that you've provided them. And they get to build out whatever they want, and we get to wrap it with all of the details of what we want. And that's what Tanzu brings to the table. How do we do that? Well, last time I checked in vCenter, we have things like storage policies. We've got a lot of security elements, right? We've got Carbon Black that's now, I have to think here. We bought Carbon Black, and we tend to integrate Carbon Black into a lot of things. I'm sorry, I just don't remember what's been released and what hasn't, so sorry about that. We've got NSX. Hey, I want to be able to distribute those networks. I want to be able to take them multi-cloud, right? You start to see all these parts and pieces working together. It's not just Kubernetes. It's how do you actually put Kubernetes into an environment where it can take advantage of the infrastructure. And then how do we make it where you guys don't have to be retooled on everything? To your point, hey, I build a node and I hand it off to them. Crazy. I've never put something like that into production, as obviously you guys have not, because trying to solve that is awful. This is the 101. Does this make sense?
It does.
Did it help?
That was a good analogy.
Good.
I like that. It made a lot of sense. Does NSX become a requirement for Tanzu then?
It does not. That question has been asked an awful lot. I can't push it enough. I mean, I think it's between NSX and vRealize Automation. I think they're our two most underrated products, and I think it's probably as much our fault as anybody's because we've done a less than stellar job at helping customers understand what they do, and we spend too much time on how they do it, right? I mean, if you think about network extensibility, how much time does it take you to have to wait on the network team to be able to make sure that they create a new VLAN and get it extended to all the correct ports and that the routing is correct, and then add the security elements to all of that? When in reality, you can policy define things, you can have configuration files. Did you guys know we bought SaltStack, by the way? If you own VRA, you now own SaltStack. Yeah, Advanced, if you own VRA Advanced, you own SaltStack Enterprise by default. So you think config management can be applied anywhere, including NSX. Again, you start to look at it and you say, wait a sec, I can just build networks on the fly, and I say, make sure you use this policy, and now those networks are secure, and I can extend them out to multiple clouds. Now I want to be able to take my containers and put them anywhere. I don't even have to extend those networks. I just need to be able to build them. And then I need to be able to have network load balancers in front of them. Avi, we bought those guys, right? Kind of see where we're going. We just knew this container thing, what it was going to require. And so we've had to put a platform in place to be able to support it. None of those are required. Okay? You can do Tanzu Basic, and you can get a lot of features and functionality out of it. A lot. In fact, I highly recommend, I'm pretty sure it's really inexpensive to add on Tanzu Basic. If you guys want to enable your developers today, go buy 4 processors worth, right? Just enough to run 2 hosts. And all you're doing is enabling containers and Kubernetes in your existing clusters. You can hand it right over.
7.0 required?
Yes, 7 is required. In fact, I don't even think 7.0, I think it's like 7.2. Yeah, something like whatever it is. Update 2, update 3. I forget what just came out, so. Yeah, I mean, it's significant, it's coming. I already know that there's commercial off-the-shelf software that's being shipped as containers. We do that. In case you didn't know, some of the stuff that we deploy, it's just container-based now. And all of our cloud stuff is, right? I mean, VRA in the cloud,
VRA,
yeah. That's all. We're making it so it's the same everywhere. I mean, this is a big benefit to us just to help customers get enabled with our tool sets. We don't want you spending time on lifecycle. Who here thinks that having to update VMware is at least one of the top 5 worst things that they have to do every couple months? Yep. Look, is it horrible? No, but why? What business value are we bringing there? I'd rather see you guys being able to support developers, right? Enable them with this kind of stuff because that has an impact on your organization. Upgrading vSphere is necessary. Yeah?
Do you know if Tanzu's in VMUG Advantage?
I don't even know what VMUG Advantage is, so I have no idea.
Ouch.
Sorry, man. I got asked to handle the VMUG relationship with VMware about 4 months ago, I think, so I'm catching up. And I haven't seen anybody face to face. This is my first time, so yeah. I'm gonna blame COVID, right? It was COVID's fault.
Yep.
Isn't that what we're blaming now?
Yeah, it's always good.
Yep. So what other questions, guys? There's a lot. If you understand this basic stuff, right? If you really get this, then you can start taking a look at the next things, right? You look at like Tanzu build service, which I don't even understand. I have to go and do my research on it, right? But I start seeing my specialists talk to the developers about Tanzu build service, and they go, oh, I want that, right? It automates a big task that they have to do. I do know about Tanzu mission control. If you want to just take this and connect it to EKS, AKS, any standard Kubernetes deployment on any platform, Tanzu mission control can handle all your security and your configuration for all of it, including Tanzu on-prem. Do you have a question? Sorry. Yes.
You were talking about during deployment having multiple IP addresses. Our application server uses VRRP to share a virtual IP between the two. Does Tanzu support that?
That's a good question. I guess where are you using VRRP? Because isn't that usually done at a...
We're using it for our cluster control, and then we're using it for moving the virtual IP that all the external devices are, they all connect to that shared virtual IP, and it swaps back and forth between the individual nodes depending on whether they're the active or the standby.
Right, because isn't VRRP able to do basically like a route load balance as well?
I don't think we're using it for that.
Okay.
So we're just
Yeah.
using it for...
Because that's like an alternative to HSRP, right? VRRP.
It is.
Yeah. You really
There's probably a lot of...
you pushed me to the back of my brain on that one. We're trying to remember VRRP, but so normally that's going to be on an outbound gateway, right? Is the idea you're trying to bounce between outbound gateways from an internal network, right? So you have multiple.
No, we actually set up. We have each individual node, whichever one is the active server, the master in our application cluster.
Now I'm with you.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
that
so
was the
here's
bit that
here's what happens is you need to have virtual networks instead of what you're effectively doing is using virtualized physical networks rather than using the concept of like TEPs, tunnel endpoints. If you remember, I don't know how much NSX you guys might have or any other virtual software-defined networking. So when you go to software-defined networking, your route endpoint becomes a tunnel endpoint, and so you can expand like VLANs across multiple clusters behind, sorry, probably me, but you can do that behind, even multiple layer 3 boundaries. So when you're deploying, probably what's happening here is when you're deploying your worker nodes, they're on physical, is that correct?
they're virtual machines.
They're virtual machines, okay. Are they all connected to the same L2 network?
Sometimes.
So as soon as you do all that, then you start getting, yeah, so again, I mean, like I said, VRA and NSX to me, most underrated products because you don't have those problems. They don't exist, right? I've got a big cream and crimson customer of mine down in the southern half of the state that I can't convince them to get on board with NSX because they're really, really super technical and really, really good. And so they do some sort of do-it-yourself SDN. But you can't really do this without software-defined networking. Not effectively, not to scale. There's lots of alternatives out there. You don't have to buy NSX. I think there's one major one that we support, one open source one, and I can't remember what it's called. We'd have to get a specialist in. But we support NSX and this one major open source software-defined networking function. You just can't do it without it. I mean, those kinds of issues that you're going to have, they're going to become 100-fold.
Mine NSX. We've discussed it. It's pretty expensive.
It is pretty expensive. I agree. Okay, I completely agree with you. You have to be able to create the business justification there. When you think about scalability and growth in containers, to me, it drives it more than anything else. It was a product ahead of its time because it was able to dynamically create these networks, and a lot of customers looked at it and said, for that much money, I'll just have my network guys do their stuff. And then we started pushing micro-segmentation, which it does do, but nobody knew what needed micro-segged. Now think about it in terms of this. When you develop everything and you push it out from this app YAML file, all that stuff's predefined. You actually have to know it to even do the containers because of how they operate within each virtual machine. You just can't not know that anymore. So when that happens, you go, oh, I can microseg now. I have to know where everything goes even as I'm developing the application because I have to be able to do it across multiple nodes. Now again, developers don't think they do. They just think, well, they just think this, right? That's still where they're at. So this is where we were talking before everybody got in here. I don't think that technology is the biggest problem in IT right now. I don't think it's the biggest problem in business right now. I think IT, process, and people are the biggest problem. And this is going to force change on everybody. We can't not talk to them. They can't not talk to us. We have to create common language. We have to be together on this. And if anybody wants to fight me, I would be really interested in your opinion. But I think we've just got to change.
I agree with you.
Yeah. We've had too many people in infrastructure that have been able to say, I don't know what my business is, what my business does. I don't know. Somebody having fun with these curtains over here?
It's on timer 7.
Oh, gotcha.
That's wrong.
Are you motioning me off the stage? Is that it? The music's playing? No, so hopefully that all makes sense, right? And guys, you know, there's a lot of good groups out there, a lot of good products, a lot of good people that are able to help with a lot of this stuff. So please do reach out. I was really, really surprised about 2 years ago when I found there was, for lack of, you know, I mean, some people are Gartner people and some aren't, but there was a study done and it said that over 70% of all new ideas within a business came from outside the business. Okay? Take advantage of your partners, take advantage of us. You know, we got a lot of people to help you. Find out who your rep is and get a hold of them. Get with your local partners. They can help you. And ask them about this people process stuff because there's some out there that are really, really good at it and they can help you. Any questions on Tanzu Containers 101?
To answer Bobby's question earlier, Tanzu Basic is included with VMware Advantage.
There you go. Awesome. That's fantastic.
So VMware Advantage, for your information, is it's a combination of a bunch of VMware software and products that VMware members can purchase for $180 a year.
Oh, very cool.
Labs,
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely take advantage of that. I mean, just the simplest and fastest way to get, you know, Tanzu up and run your environment and offer a Kubernetes interface. Anybody who's like done containers from the development side, you say, hey, here's this thing and here's the API to connect to it. Go wild, right? Give them a little space and let them do some dev test stuff on it. Yes?
Everything is built basically into the Tanzu piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like proxying into the containers, IP address management, resolution into the container side, all that stuff is included in the Tanzu.
Definitely get out there and look at the hands-on lab. I'm very familiar with that, right? Go out there and get on YouTube and look at the videos, all that stuff's in there. And it does matter, so which feature set, right? We have basic, standard, and advanced, right? Because we just don't know how to make one version of software. And hopefully the Tanzu name will stick around for a good long time. We don't have any expectations it'll be renamed. We already renamed Pivotal, right? So now it's, since we bought it, and it's all Tanzu now. Make sense? Helpful?
Yes, very.
Good. Well, thanks for having me today, and you know, make sure everybody has my contact information, but I will probably redirect you to your specific rep and SC in most cases. I'm always happy to answer questions as best I can. I'm not going to be the deep dive technical guy, so I'll do my best to funnel things around. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You bet.